This is African time. This is evening already. This is to 5. Wonderful. Amazing. We're already running out of time. The day is already over. Monday is over. Lamasi Kapa. Today I would discuss something before maybe 7 p.m. that I'll come in live to talk about blacks and how we can continuously talk about the the unity between Africans and Black Americans. But I decided at some point that I was going to touch on few things simply because I had few observations regarding it's still surrounding the subject of Black Americans and Africans. When it comes to Africa, you can talk about the western part of Africa, you can talk about the northern part of Africa, which is about the Egypt, the Sumerians, and the rest of it. You want to talk about the eastern part of Nigeria, or sorry, of Africa, and there are many things that are applicable to different part of Africa. And I asked myself a question as I was thinking that what would be the solution why we try to unite our black or our African brothers and sisters who are in the Western culture. I was thinking about it and I said, most of these people have different cultural beliefs that are different from ours. And in fact, they have some lifestyle that is also different from us. And part of the lifestyle that we can say that most blacks or Africans are having right now, that the Africans, sorry, when I use the word black, I don't like separating those two. But unfortunately for us, for the sake of conversation, that's the reason why I sometimes like to bring out the difference, saying that Black Americans and Africans, or blacks and Africans. So if anyone tends to be Black American or something like that, you just pardon me for lack of no words to use, and I have to use that just to make those distinction. And I was thinking that why we are trying to discuss on these subjects. Every support is welcome, or if that's true, maybe you're psyching me. I don't know. But I'm not expecting that. I'm not expecting up to $1,000. What am I except what do I want to use it for? I don't have much things I want to use it for. Um no. Like I was saying, actually, I was touching on the idea of why we are trying to find a way to come back and to unite African brothers and sisters, those who are black and the rest of it. It popped up in my mind that we have so many cultural differences in many ways. And those cultural differences and our lifestyle is kind of so much different that I am asking myself, how possible will it be? It is easy for us to actually start the conversation, try to make it work, and talk about the possibility of bringing these people. They are not these people. Sorry for using the word these people because they are our brothers and sisters. But eventually, they they now have most of them now have different lifestyle that we do not appreciate as Africans. And I can remember part of the conversation I once had with someone dear to me. I'll just use the word dear to me, the Ember. And we discussed at length to a few things. And she made mention of few things. And she said, can we bring our culture and the culture of Africans and then we can merge them together? That means can we welcome the culture of the Black Americans, bringing it to Africa? And I thought about it at some point. I'm like, What are the cultures of the Black Americans and what are the cultures of the Africans? And then we should also be asking a question. Can we truly come together if you want to come back home and your home already has traditions and culture, is it proper for you to be able to influence those who are home? Do you think they would want to welcome you? Or do you think they would object to a lot of things? For example, when it comes to Nigeria specifically, we remembered something happened earlier. There's a guy who they call Abuja area mama. Then this person comes online and talks about, how he sleeps with all kinds of politicians and how they have sex with him. They call them cross dressers, but same sexual marriage stuff. That's what they do. And Africans, Nigerians are not accepting it. One day we woke up and we realized that this person has been killed. Nigerians so much hate gay and lesbianism. We hate it so much. I have heard that there are certain people in Abuja, that there are a lot of people in Abuja who are into lesbianism. That's for the female. But for the guys, I know few people here and there, but it's not rampant. And if we have to bring the Black Americans back to Africans and we want to make these things work, are we going to be accepting any of their culture and tradition, seeing for a fact that they've been able to influence the youths in Africa today? And I told somebody a particular stuff that one of the reasons why some African mothers or some African parents are not welcoming most Black Americans is simply because when they look at their children, which are the young ones, they realize that the children are looking up to the Black Americans in the way they portray themselves to the society. So that means that whatever an average teenager of African children see on social media, they see a Black American woman. And when they see a Black American lady, the way she dresses, that's how they want to dress. The way they keep their nails, that's how they want to keep. The way they talk, that's what they want to talk. That's how they want to talk. Most of our African children, when I talk about African children, the teenagers, are not specifically looking at people from the Puerto Ricans, Asians. We do not admire being with the Japanese because we have nothing that is related. We are not copying the culture of Japanese or China or any of all these people. In fact, it is kind of rare for you to see a Nigerian looking up to a China person. We don't. We don't care how successful you are. But, and this is not to say that Chinas are not, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm only saying that we don't have any similarities in any way. So maybe the skin color is part of the issues. But when we look at the Black Americans and the way they portray themselves, it's like instinctively we know that they are our brothers and sisters, just that there's a distance between us. And so most of our teenagers are looking up to them. And if you ask most Africans why we become what we are, I believe that a lot of the way our teenagers in Africa act is due to the culture of the Black American that is being propagated on social media, the negative side of it. And sometimes I kind of ask myself, what is the positive cultural side of the Black Americans and how has it influenced any African country? It is kind of difficult to see it simply because maybe the algorithm on social media deliberately find a way to push out negative narration about the Black Americans. In fact, it is rare for any average African person to believe that there are decent women in the Black American culture. And and sometimes when you even talk about, when you even have a conversation with the decent American women, and you want them to, have discussions, a lot of them kind of step back from coming out to defend their people. So all these things are going on in my head, because when I talk about something, trust me, it's basically because I am passionate about that thing. If I'm not passionate about subject, I don't think of talking about it, because it wouldn't make sense to me. But I'm asking, what are the possibilities that we as Africans think that we can see some positive light and we would welcome them fully? Because trust me, when you decide to welcome someone to your home, you also understand that you're welcoming that person with their traditions and their culture and their ways of life and the rest of it. Now, do we have to treat them differently if we are not welcoming them completely? Are we the one to tell them that the way you guys live, now you have to change it for us to be able to welcome you? What are the possibilities of how we can mitigate around conversations like this? Then there's another guy on every, please, if you have anything you want to write, please write it. It's all, you're welcome. Let me even say, there's something I forgot to say. I like anyone who wants to contribute should subscribe to the channel, and you should subscribe so you can send your message, and I would definitely be reading it out. So, for example, there was something that went on in Nigeria specifically a few months ago, and I think most people might know the person. They call the guy Bobrisky. He's a guy, but he's a cross dresser. And this individual began to, act like a lady. Some people say he's a gay and the rest of it. And he hasn't opened his mouth to say that I sleep with men, because then he would have been apprehended by the law enforcement. But people see him as that. Some people say he's married, like he's flaunting all these things just to cause, just to cause people to speak and people to talk whatever. Do they call it? Just say whatever you want to say, just confusing the whole nation. And some people say he has wife. Some people say he sleeps with men and the rest of it. And his actions actually showed that particular fact. Now, there was something he did that he went to jail for. Why do Nigerians throw him in jail? We have a law in the country that you don't spray money on people. They call it the abusing of naira. And it kind of baffles me when I see our EFCC fighting about abusing of naira when we cannot even increase the value of our naira. Why are we saying that we are abusing naira when all our politicians are converting all their nairas to dollars, and they only want to have the dollar currency, and we devalue our own currency by changing almost all our money? But right now we put it like spraying money is we abusing we are abusing sorry, what do they call it, our currency. And when this individual did it, most people have done it. In fact, there was a recent person who actually sprayed money again in the party, and it was being captured on 4K. They took him to court, and the highest thing they do, because these are not criminal cases, you're supposed to give the person, what do they call it, there's this, you're supposed to give the person a fine. So Bobrisky, which was the cross-dresser, did the same thing, and people have been looking for a way to nail him. The moment he found himself in court and he admitted that, yes, I sprayed money to people who were celebrating and jubilating, because of the way Nigerians see him, in my own opinion, I would say the way our justice system saw him and the way people were clamoring for him to be in jail for spraying money, then the guy was sentenced to jail for 6 months, right? Yes, for 6 months or 4 months. Was it 6 or 4 months? And he served in jail for March, April, May, June, July. Yeah, 4 months. It served for 4 months. To me, I felt the punishment was much for such a minor offense, spraying money. Now, trust me, I do not encourage gay and lesbianism in a way. I can even say this for a fact. I could remember when I was a little bit younger, maybe I was in my 16s, or yes, maybe I was 16 or 15. There was a day I remember that I was in a school, an uncompleted school, and I had a guy who used to entice me with money. I felt like he was just an angel because I was suffering then. And the guy would give me money to feed, to take care of myself and the rest of it. So while I was trying to navigate my way towards life, what I was supposed to do to be able to take care of myself. And I appreciated God for the guy, like, until it got to one evening. We were in that uncompleted school, and then the guy held my hand in a romantic way. Oh, blood of God. My internal brain exploded. I gave glory to God that I had nothing. Maybe I would have been charged for something. I so much hate it. When people then told me things about the guy that, oh, this guy loved doing things with guys, I'm like, ah. But as I grew older, I realized few things. I realized that we are humans and there are flaws in different places. Now, that brought me to something. I went into a little bit of our history and I realized that part of the historical factors of Africans, things like this do exist. Not broaden, but like this. They were there in our culture. So while I made a decision to talk about this, I also made a little bit of research. Why do Africans truly hate gay and lesbianism or do not welcome gay and lesbianism? And trust me, why I am talking about gay and lesbianism, my YouTube channel is not about gay, it's not about LGBTQ. I don't talk about it, but I have to talk about it because I understand that if we have to talk fully, if we have to be completely open discussing about our Black American or Western brothers and sisters who share the same ancestral past with us, but these people have been taken by the Western people and they have become a citizen for many generations. If we're talking about uniting us together, then that means we have to be aware and conscious of the fact that most of these people have this now as their ways of life. And in the sight of Nigerians, specifically African as a whole, majority of Africans do not welcome it. So that means, are we going to be welcoming stuff like this? And I ask myself, why do we not accept it right now? And then it took me to a part to see that, okay, we have cultural and traditional beliefs. And because our culture in the olden days talks about the feminine and the masculine traits, there are many factors to it. Traditional, when it comes to Yoruba tribe, we believe that even a man should be able to have multiple women. In those times, it can be understood. Right now, I wouldn't think that men and women or men should be polygamous in nature. I wouldn't advocate for it, but I think that if a man has the resources to take care of each woman and take care of the children, yes, it should be able to do that. Now we have certain ego as pride. Like as a woman, you most likely might have money, but you can't get married to four different or three different men. It's not that we don't welcome things like that in the African culture. Now, when we look at our traditions and belief, we also realize that part of the reasons why we actually moved into the polygamous home was simply because of war and stuff like that. And then I ask myself a question, apart from this, what could also be the reason why we kind of move away from things like this? Then I watched the religious factor, the religious influence. And this is kind of interesting a little bit, which is like in Africa, we have too many churches. We have so many religious believers. And too many religious believers will tell you that gays are not welcome in the paradise. That is when they want to talk about heaven and the rest of it. So we discriminate. Religion itself discriminates against gay and lesbianism. And then I asked myself a question: what's the third one? Which I actually went through ChatGPT, and then I directed it back to little part of history. And I realized that part of it, why we don't accept gay and lesbianism in Africa, was simply part of it was because of colonial legacy. Now, trust me, you understand that when it comes to me, I don't like putting the blame on our colonial master and the rest of it. I only hold Africans that when are we going to liberate ourselves from how we view the world? And when I look at colonial legacy, here's what I saw that the colonial legacy was that many of the people who colonized us were anti-LGBTQ. They were the one who even instilled the law in Africa that if you were found doing any of these LGBT alphabetical people, you are going to be penalized, and it was a criminal offense. So the question is, if the colonial masters or the colonial legacy was part of being against anti-LGBTQ, if the colonial legacy was against and were anti-LGBTQ in Africa during those times, the question is, why were they against it? I have few theories to it. Part of my theory was they needed Africans to produce lots of children so they can always have the ones they would use for their industrial purposes. Because during that time, there was no much things like mechanics. That means we don't have too many machines. So humans were more or less the machines you have to use. And then when I looked into the historical fact that colonial masters were part of the people who were against anti-LGBTQ in Africa, then it prompted me to ask myself a question. You cannot give a law for something that does not exist. So that means there's a possibility it does exist in Africa. And when I look, it most likely would have been in the northern side of Africa, which is the Egypt areas and the rest of it. I hope people are even getting this message I'm saying, because some people will be like, are you trying to welcome this? I am not welcoming anything. I'm only questioning. I'm a curious person. I try to dig deep in my head and understand few things. Now, if these people were against it, which according to what I wrote, I said, many anti-LGBTQ laws in African countries were introduced during colonial period by Europeans. By the Europeans. Europeans were the ones who instilled a law in Africa that was against LGBTQ. Trust me. The next question is, who brought in religion? The people who brought in religion were also the Europeans. The Europeans brought religion to Africa. And part of it, when you look at the book of the Bible, you would see the story of Lot. That particular story, they actually instill it so that Africans would understand that there is no reason for them to welcome the idea of LGBTQ. And they criminalized anyone who is same-sex marriage. So subconsciously, we have had this as part of our culture and tradition, not knowing that it was the Europeans. And I always say something. If you read history carefully, you would realize that the British and the Europeans, when they came to Africa, the Europeans were already aware of religion, even when the British were not aware. But the Europeans were also participating in the enslavement and of the selling of slaves. After the British welcomed religion and understood the concept of religion, the British were the one who decided to free us. That's a different story. They freed us for many reasons. So that means that even the Europeans understanding scripture perfectly well, it did not stop them from participating in certain barbaric acts. So it looks like it was deliberate to give us religion because certain individuals might be doing few things just like the LGBTQ people, and they brought it in to stop us. Now there's a different question to this. The same people now who told us that LGBTQ is a crime and should not be accepted and the rest of it. Rashad, good day, sir. The same people who said we shouldn't welcome anti who were who instill anti-LGBTQ laws in Africa during the colonial period, now these same people are the one accepting LGBTQ in their countries, in the churches. And this is why we have to be very conscious about the games that are being played subconsciously in the hearts of Africans. Now, why are they encouraging LGBTQ? Now, trust me, I think that many African countries, many Western countries or white or Puerto Ricans and the rest of it, I think that majority of them might, not majority, but minorities of them are into the LGBTQ stuff and they encourage stuff like that within themselves. But it seems when they portray on social media, the amount of people who are propagating the idea of the LGBTQ are now the Black Americans. Maybe whenever Africans pick up something, we over multiply, we over energize that particular ideology. I don't know if that's the case. But if the reason why they said that LGBTQ was a criminal offense during colonial period, so that I think that the reason might be, these are just theory, the reason might be so that we can reproduce and have a lot of children that they can use to work for them. And now after the Industrial Revolution, they felt African population is getting much. Maybe right now we should bring back the LGBTQ. In fact, push it into the institution for the children who are even coming, the one yet unborn. And so they instill it into the institutions, into the churches. So now a lot of Catholic outside country welcome LGBTQ. I hope people are getting this narration clearly. And you can actually see where I'm going. Please, if you do get the narration of what I'm saying, please, I would like you to just give me more thumbs up or give me a notification. Just write something if you're getting this message where I'm actually going. Anybody can do that. And for those who are joining me live, please double tap your screen and like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel so you can contribute to the conversation. I'm waiting, please. I'm sorry, maybe sometimes people like and it might take time for it to reflect on my channel. Please are you getting it? Are you getting my narration? Ejo, edami lohun, biko no, na beg I dey beg. Okay, Rashad. Yeah. Thank you for that. So now they are pushing it back into the institution, and now they've been able to go into most of the Black Americans. Now, I have few theory. I'm not saying this is true, but I have few theory because I have had some conversations with few individuals. It seems as if Black Americans, there is a war. Most of them say this. They always say there's a war against the Black Americans. And here's how I see it. First of all, they've been able to divide the home. It is rare for you to see a good traditional cultural home in the Black American culture. Now, because it is difficult to see, some people will say they are decent ones, but to me, when people say, "Oh, they are decent people in the Black American," and they talk to me about the stigma of being a Black American and the rest of it, the trauma and the rest of it. Sometimes I just tell them, "Can we have these conversations on live? Let us even start a discussion on it. Why we talk about the African issues, welcoming our brothers, our lost brothers and sisters." But a lot of them are not willing to come. Some people promise they will be coming, but I see certain people kind of retract. I don't know why. Just discussion. Some people say if they come on live and they have any discussion about this particular incident, the world will clamor, the world will kind of come upon them, and they are going to humiliate them. So they have few things that they are scared of. I can understand a little bit, but I say, all right. But I say that if you care about the next generation, you should know that you have certain responsibility to share and speak the truth. If you do not stand by the truth or you did not speak the truth, even if you know the truth, you are indirectly an accomplice to the problem of your people. If you decide to think that fear is the natural response and silence is the natural response to a situation just because people are going to criticize you, I think you have to think it twice. When I was fighting for my people in my estate, I knew definitely there were chances that I would go to the station, I would be arrested. I knew there was a chance, and I had little children. I knew there was a chance that I'll be going to prison, but I don't care until I accomplish what I want. And that's how I view it. So when I speak to them, they say that they understand that there's a war against the Black Americans. And when I brought someone yesterday and we had this conversation over 2 hours conversation, the enlightened one yesterday around 9 p.m. African time, he also spot on one thing that drew my mind. He said that Africans that go to the Western culture are earning more than an average Black American. And it shook me. I've heard about it from Americans, but I never believed it. I'm just like, maybe you're just thinking people are oppressing you. And I'm like, why? The time should be something around 5:08, after 5. Let me just say 10 minutes after 5 p.m. So I felt like, wow, this is kind of a little bit interesting. That means people are absolutely attacking these people, because if it is obvious that you are bringing other people who are not part of the country or are not citizens of the country into your country, and you are paying the people that you are bringing from a different country, you are paying them more than the citizens of your country, it sounds kind of fishy. it looks like something is wrong somewhere. I'm not saying that Africans that are my brothers shouldn't earn. What I'm saying is that why are they earning more than the blacks who are the citizens of this country, who are born there, who have been born there for generations after generations? Now it seems when you look at this whole scenario, it seems as if they are pushing, they've been able to separate their men. So now, looking at the Black American people or the Western culture, you would realize that the blacks over there, a lot of men are not willing to get married to their women. This is obvious. Maybe it's not fact check, but this is what we can see mostly on the social media that they propagate. Now, most of the men are being welcomed to Africa. Africa welcomed Black American men. In fact, Africans would love their sisters, their daughters to get married to a Black American man. But the Black American women are having challenges. And trust me, the only people that can multiply the world, the only people that can increase population are the women. Not quite long we saw, it was rare in the past to see a cop shoot at a Black American woman in the past. It was like the fight or the trouble was with the men. And now they've been able to pollute the relationship between the Black American women and the Black American men. So the Black American men are going back to Africa or going back to any other country. So you hear them, they call these people passport bros. Going to Puerto Rico, going to Mexico, going to all kinds of countries to find a lady, Asia. In fact, Asians love Black American men. But there's something that I am kind of looking at, like maybe I see something where they do me somehow. And what is it? Now the war is about the Black American woman, and the Black American women are the one that can populate more Black American people. Now it seems as if now if we put in the institution that you cannot touch your children, you cannot correct your children, because in almost every African culture, cautioning our children is part of us, is part of our identity. Someone like me, I don't cane my child, but that doesn't mean I can't cane my child. I don't cane my child. I don't even believe in caning my child. In fact, my eyes are strong enough to talk to my children without even saying anything. But it seems when these days, according to what I've heard, that if a Black American woman canes a child, the child will be taken from her. And when the child is taken from her, it is more easier to indoctrinate that child and ask that child. And I heard that in few countries, your children can just decide they want to change their gender, and without the consent of the parents, the government will change the gender of the children. Now, if you give a child hormone blockers and the rest of it, the possibility that that child will be able to reproduce for the rest of their life is impossible. Now, it seems as if I'm saying what will make them to block my channel. This particular theory I'm talking about is a theory that can make somebody block somebody's channel. But if they can take the children and they can give them hormone blockers, and the women, they convert them and they give them pennies, then that simply means, am I supposed to say penny? No. Penny. And they change all this kind of stuff. There's a possibility that 2 or 3 generations from now, the real Black Americans will no more exist anymore. That's how I'm seeing it. So I think that if we would want to make a change, that means the Black Americans need to understand that the only reason why Africans have been able to survive this longer period is simply because we did not participate in certain traditions and culture that have been implemented for them. So that means is it now okay for us to say that we wouldn't welcome this, or even if we welcome it, if we are going to welcome you as our brothers and sisters who are Black Americans, whatever, if you're Black Americans and you're coming to Africa, we would welcome you, but your sexuality should be something private. If in case you find yourself being in the situation of LGBTQ, and for them to also understand that just because we might even give you a regard or respect as a human, because you have a right as a human, that doesn't mean also that you think we have to indoctrinate our children. Because the idea about humans that I understand is when you believe in something, you want other people to believe in that same thing. This is human nature. When people believe in religion, they want others to believe in that same religion. And that's why you see people go out and preach. When people believe in culture or different culture, they kind of find like-minded just to be able to propagate what they truly believe in. I always say something. I'm not interested in anyone believing anything I say. I'm just trying to raise questions for everybody to think for themselves. And then if we can think, have a critical thinking, and we can come together, then we can start reasoning and having discussion that would lead us to the right direction. Now, that doesn't make me unique, but I know I'm blessed for having such perspective in life. So what I'm saying is this: if Africans find that the Black Americans believe in stuff like this, and this particular thing is reducing psychologically, stylishly reducing the population of the Black Americans, because trust me, if they do wipe out the Black Americans, now that means the Black Americans only worked to make America great. And trust me, when it comes to election, regardless of the things they've done to the Black Americans, yet they still have the population. And that's why you see the presidents or candidates for being president, they go to the Black Americans to bow to them, to pander to the Black Americans, because if the Black Americans choose any other person, they most likely would win the vote. No wonder you can see Kamala Harris trying to pretend to be a Black American person. Donald Trump, on the other hand, I don't know what to say about Donald Trump. Maybe it's sincere, but I think maybe it's just about two devils, and you just have to choose your poison. Choose your poison wisely. The history of Kamala Harris has shown that she actually despised Black people. Now, I'm not there to verify things like that, but obviously what I have seen people say over and over on all social media, on Google and the rest of it, I would take it on that facial value. And in fact, I'm not having any plan to go to Western culture. I'm not planning, not because it's not good, but basically because I'm not the outgoing type. So looking at it, if we have to reconcile, we are not fighting. But if we have to bring back our brothers and sisters, do we think that there's a possibility that we will be able to encourage them to? That means they will definitely, those who tends to be the LGBTQ stuff and they want to come to Africa, do you think we would be able to welcome them? Is there a possibility that Africans will welcome LGBTQ? Because the LGBTQ we are talking about are the ones by our, what do they call it? These are still our brothers and sisters. And trust me, the Europeans who said they were against anti-LGBTQ, now they are trying to propagate LGBTQ, which is they are using they use the religion to destroy our culture and to enhance people not doing this LGBTQ. Right now, they are our religion in Africa for now. I see it as garbage in, garbage out. I only respect people. I don't respect most religion. in Africa because they are being polluted excessively. And I'm like, with the condition of Nigeria right now, or Africa in most places, where you see that most churches are just extorting, performing unnecessary miracles, miracles that are not changing the economy of the country, miracles that, when you look at the crutches they use in healing a particular individual, all the crutches of the healing of the people that they raise to work, all the crutches are similar. And how would you bring people to your church and you heal them, and at the end of the day, they've been on the wheelchair or they've been on crutch for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, and the crutches are always brand new. So they are mostly planned work. In fact, pastors are raising dead people and they cannot raise the economy of the country. They cannot talk to the president. They are afraid. They cannot talk to their church members to stand and vote for the right person. So churches in Africa is gone. And I'm like, how long will it take before churches, trust me, if not because of the government, if not because of African government, most churches in Africa would have accepted this gay marriage and lesbian marriages and the rest of it. They will. As much as it brings in money, they will accept it. So my question will be this evening, when I decide to come back, will be, what part of traditions and culture of the blacks in the Western culture can we actually accept as Africans? I would be adding this to the conversation. What are the things that Africans we owe dearly that we can never negotiate with the Black Americans if we have to come together? This is just a place where we can just reason. We are not giving the law, we are just discussing, having this discussion. What are the possibilities of the middle ground if we would have to be able to come together? What are the things, awareness that we can give to the people outside to be so sure that if I'm going to Africa, there are things like this that they would accommodate, and there are things like this that they most likely might not accept. If we actually, because someone in the previous time before it started raining and I came back to my house, someone was asking a question, then it was like, let us take actionable things. And this particular conversation is also boiling down to actionable conversation, something that we can look at it theoretically and then we can make it practical. Reasons why I'm saying all this is because the elders of Africans understand certain things. Even if they have failed us as people, yet they still understand certain traditions and culture that we hold dear to us. Now, the question is this: they also are very aware that most of our teenagers are trying to emulate the Black American people, and that's why an average African child that is teenagers are mostly immoral in the things they do. And I'm not trying to be righteous or anything. I'm saying what I mean by immoral is that we are doing things that are going to cause degeneracy. Degeneracy in a sense that we might reduce in population with time, or we might disrupt our society, because if young girls continuously sleep with all kinds of men thinking that it is equal right to do whatever, and we keep having baby mama, baby father, baby mama, baby father, our fate is almost going to be the same with the fate of the Black Americans. Does that make sense? Who is calling me? Oh, I have a call. Maliko Sundaya. Stop calling by this time. Well, I was actually rounding up. So, what do we think about it? If you can't think right now, there is a possibility that this is exactly what part of the conversations or part of the direction that we would be thinking when we are having conversations like this. I think everyone have rights to their life. I think we should respect people, but I also think that there should be a boundary. Even as Africans, as cultural people, I wouldn't go to South Africa, for example, and just live my life anyhow there. I have to follow the rules of their own culture and traditions on how they engage. If you go to Dubai, you do the same thing. So if you come to Africa, what are the things that they can let go? How do we think that there's a possibility that if they come with this, so they don't get crucified? Imagine a Black American person comes to Nigeria, for example, and he says, "Oh, I'm coming to my father's land." You know, they have this blood test that they do, and when they do those blood tests, they'll tell them 15% of your blood is from Nigeria, 30% of your blood is from Russia, 3% of your this is from this and that. And you come to Africa and you think we are going to accept you, the way of your life, and then you come around and you find yourself in jail. If we truly want to welcome the Black Africans, we should be able to discuss, start thinking up within ourselves, like what can be the do's and the don'ts. What are the things that truly I think Africans, we the Africans here, we have the right traditions and culture. In a sense, I'm not saying we are absolutely right. We have it because we have been able to sustain ourselves till date. They, on the other hand, it's different because they were taken away from Africa and used and stuff like that till they fought for their liberation. And after their liberation, yet till date, they've not been able to have the opportunity to have industries. And when I was talking to the enlightened one, he pointed out that in Africa, billionaires are business people. In the Western culture, billionaires are entertainers. So if you look at it, you can see that they really don't have much ways for them to be able to flourish as blacks. And psychologically or stylishly, they are taking them out. I hope this makes sense. I hope everything I'm saying makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, please forgive me. Still subscribe, like, share, join membership, do super chat, do all these things because it's all about we thinking together. If I'm not thinking correctly, think correctly with me. Show me the way, talk to me. If I never had, there were a lot of things I was able to learn through the conversation I had with the enlightened one yesterday. And I believe those people who actually joined us, we were about 2,500 people on live. For those people who joined us, everyone benefits. Everyone benefits. At least we have a conversation that makes sense. And that is exactly what I would think we should continue on. With that being said, hopefully I'll be back by 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. today. If I would be, I'm going to be dropping a notification. So do they call it premium or something like that? So for you, I will schedule something so you can see the notification that I will be coming by this so time, so we can all engage. When we do, please make sure you are able to dial in and give me your own insights. Every insight is always been appreciated. With that being said, for right now, I will be going offline. We have few things we need to go deal with. Certain individuals we have to go deal with certain situations right now. Thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you, Rashad, Debbie Mudok, Etana Empire, Zabos. Zabos said he wants to donate $1,000 to me. $1,000. You know, say 1,000 naira. $1,000. I know maybe the person is just joking, but thank you very much. I appreciate everyone for contributing today. See you next time. Bye bye. Adios, amigos.